What up, everybody? Welcome to the Bare Minimum. It's our sixth installment of this Thursday night preview episode. We preview the Bears game. We usually recap the Thursday night game and just kind of, bullshit and mess around and, have a good conversation. Brandon, what up, dude?
What's going on, man?
How you doing today? What you up to?
Nothing, man. Working.
Working? Yeah. Yeah, me too. Just got off actually. But I was able to watch that Niners game. Obviously I was rooting for the Niners to win. I am a Niners fan. I thought the Niners really needed that game, and I thought they kind of came out and showed that with how they played. Almost gave it up a couple of times, but I never really got too worried. They played like they knew it was kind of like it felt like a season-changing moment for them in this game, to be honest. Seahawks were on top of the division. Niners just lost last week to the Cardinals in terrible fashion. They lost to the Rams in terrible fashion, 2 division losses. They needed a division win, and they needed to get back on track. And I thought they played pretty damn well, and through some injuries too. Brock Purdy had a hell of a game. You sat him on your fantasy team. Hopefully you don't regret that. But he threw 3 touchdowns, man. No interceptions. I think it was 18 to 28.
Like an 85-yard touchdown, didn't he?
It was 76 to Debo.
76, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously Brock needed that game. You know what I mean? It's not like he's been bad, but he hasn't.
He's had a really good season, man. He still leads the league in yards per attempt. Again.
Yeah, well, he's close to leading the league in yards. He's got like 1,300 yards, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. That's the kind of game we know he can play. He hasn't done that this year. You know what I mean? But now he got the people involved. They should have, man. Like George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. I mean, Kittle's been kind of quiet.
Kittle had 2 touchdowns, didn't he?
No, that's what I'm saying. Before this game, though, like you got.
I'm talking about in this game, he had 2 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure.
You got to get that guy involved, man. It's like it's like being a Bears fan and thinking like we got to get DJ more involved. 2 touchdowns.
It's kind of like being a Niners fan and having Brandon Ayuk in your starting lineup on your fantasy team and being like, we got to get Brandon Ayuk involved because Brandon Ayuk did not have. He's had a rough season in general. He had a pretty good game last week, but only 4 targets, 2 catches, 37 yards in my starting lineup on my fantasy team. Thanks a lot. But Debo had 3 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown, man. That's a pretty damn good average, 34 yards per catch. And yeah, Kittle had the 6 targets, 5 catches. Out of those 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, man. The Niners knew what they needed to do in that game, and they just came out and did it, man. The Seahawks really didn't stand a chance.
Is that a 3-game slide for Seattle?
They lost to the Giants last week.
I think didn't they win? Didn't they start off 3-0?
Yeah, they were undefeated. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good
So
point.
they're 3-3 now.
Yeah. Who did they lose? Yeah. Who did they lose to? Oh, yeah, they played the Lions. The Lions massacred them on Monday Night Football. Jared Goff did not incomplete a pass in that game. So, yeah, I don't know. Like it seems to me like the Niners finally have gotten their shit together. I think we're going to look back at this moment if you're a Niners fan, because I felt like they were like this is the season to break through. 4 out of the last 5 years they're in the NFC Championship game. They, continually lose in the Super Bowl, man. It's heartbreaking. But it felt like this year could be the year they push through. Then you have the injuries. You got Ricky Pearsall getting shot, like the contract issues with Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk. It's been a strange year. But it feels like one of those years where you like watch in 10 years, like the NFL history, NFL film stuff where they go through a season of a Super Bowl winning team and they look back and talk about all the challenges they overcame. That's the way I'm going to try to look at it as a Niners fan. I think they're going to turn a corner here after this game.
Oh, it wouldn't be the first time that a team who consistently succeeded finally won it on a year where they didn't make it look pretty. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a lot
for
of teams that were kind of at the top of any given sports league for a long while, and then that one year where you're like, "Ugh, they kind of look like shit now." That's the year they win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That has happened.
I don't know, man. Like the game wasn't. It was a good game, I guess. If you wanted the Niners to win, I put a little money on the Niners. I actually won a bet, which was pretty cool. I just bet the 3.5, the minus 3.5, and just went with the Niners, and that actually paid off. Because like no parlays, no adding same game bullshit to it, and I won a bet, so that's cool.
Yeah,
But other
guys,
than
and
that,
this game is important. Like, obviously, if you're a Bears fan, you're looking at who you need to beat, who you got to be better than, really. And the Niners were kind of looking like they might be a team the Bears could finish at least around the same record with. But like you said tonight, Dustin, it kind of made a statement. I don't know. You got to imagine the Niners and Lions, as we all projected before the season started, are probably going to be the two best teams in the NFC if they play the football they did tonight.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
And their
for sure.
defense didn't even look great, but still, I mean, the
They were
game
good
never.
enough. Fred Warner is just unbelievable. We talk about him every time we talk about the Niners. Just watching him play is just it's awe-inspiring, honestly, how much ground he covers, how good he is in pass coverage. I mean, he punched the ball out tonight. The Niners weren't able to recover it, but it was a perfect punch. Like Peanut Tillman would have been proud. And you're talking about the Niners and the Lions. You're going to get to see the Bears, go up against both of those teams this season as like a really good measuring stick for like, are the Bears ready to compete with the upper echelon of the NFC? And I do think the Niners will end up there. I think the Seahawks are gonna, they're gonna kind of finish around 500 probably, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think you're gonna see the Niners establish themselves from here on out.
I think the four of us said that no other team makes the playoffs from the West, right?
I think a couple people had the Rams, man. I don't remember, man.
Maybe
But
I did. Yeah, maybe I did have the
yeah, I
Rams.
think you and Sean both had the
And I
Rams.
still firmly believe they're. I don't know. They're just missing. We don't want to dive down
Yeah,
that
they're
rabbit
1-4,
hole, but yeah.
and the Bears beat them.
And they're
And
missing a lot of pieces, man. I mean,
yeah,
they've had a lot of misfortune, but no excuses, I guess. But yeah, so that
not
is
much to go into on that game. What I expected to happen happened.
it's an indication, though, for sure. You're right that the Niners are probably going to end up winning that division. Not only winning that division, but at this juncture, man, looks like they could be the only team that's going to make the playoffs out of that division, which would surprise me for sure. It's usually a very competitive division.
Yeah, yeah, they were talking on the broadcast about how they expected the NFC West going into the season to be the toughest division in football. I didn't expect that. Vegas didn't expect that either in terms of the projected win totals. I mean, it was the AFC North and the NFC North were the two toughest divisions by that metric, and that's kind of what I expected.
You want to dive into the NFC North?
Head first, bro. What do you got? Where you want to start?
Well,
thanks to everybody being with us. By the way, we got.
Yeah.
We see y'all out
5
there.
people. That's awesome.
Bring the comments, guys. Get involved.
Yeah, say something in the chat, guys.
I promise.
Always helps our conversation move forward.
For sure. But what do you got, Brandon?
Story and a screenplay.
Like and subscribe as well.
Well, you just informed me of the only real news I've heard this week, other than the Bears flew out early, guys. We know that they flew out on, I think it was Monday, wasn't it?
Monday night. Tuesday was a day off, and then they had a walkthrough on Wednesday.
Jaguars flew out tonight.
Hey, Harris.
So we'll see if that has an impact on either team. But you said that DJ Moore, kind of in a silly sense, called Caleb a little bro boss.
He said he's starting to become bossy. And he said he was kind of big broing him when he was saying it a little bit, but he was really, I mean, I don't think he was saying it in a negative way at all. He was saying like Caleb is starting to try to take control of this team, be the leader of this team. And that's great to hear. I mean, when DJ Moore is talking about it, the rookie quarterback, and saying, he's holding me accountable and I don't want to let him down. As that chemistry continues to build throughout this year, it can't get worse. It's only going to get better. And we've seen that trajectory already starting from game 1 to game 5 and now going into game 6. You hope to see more progression. And that comes with Caleb's comfortability level with being able to be the leader of this team. The quarterback has to be the leader of the offense, whether they're a rookie or not, and it's great to hear that that's being acknowledged in the locker room that Caleb is taking that role. And Caleb, when he was told about DJ Moore's comment, he was like, "Oh, that makes me sound kind of sassy," but like I think they all have a good relationship.
If you were to say to me that a teammate referred to Caleb Williams as controlling, that wouldn't surprise me at all, man. He's kind of already that guy, you know what I mean? Like
very meticulous,
and that is a sign of. I don't know. I'm not listening, guys. I'm not saying. I'm not comparing.
You're about to compare him to Tom Brady, aren't you?
Yeah, that's a sign of greatness. It is when a player kind of wants just as much control over things as their coach. Those guys who have eventually gotten that status only did so in being great. You know what I mean? The Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's, if you will, of the league that kind of told their coach. I mean, look at these guys. They're at some point running an organization. Rodgers was dictating who people sign. I mean, so it's a sign of great. But yeah, Caleb has a lot of control at the line. You know what I mean? If it's any indication, the person he is on the field of who he is in a locker room, I'd imagine he likes to be in control of things in a positive way.
And just food for thought on that, man. Like, I don't know that if you think about Caleb's personality, could you want a better leader in that locker room? If he's going to establish himself as that, like, he's pretty cool and calm, but like he knows when to celebrate, he knows when to like, be aggressive. Like I don't know. I just feel like his demeanor is perfect for that type of role in terms of like how he approaches his game. If that starts rubbing off on everybody else, just like he we've seen him get his ass kicked in games and he keeps his composure. And he comes out after the game and says, we just got to get better. There's things we got to work on. He's not throwing anybody under the bus. I don't think that we could ask for a better leader in this locker room, and I don't think we've had one, to be honest.
Right. He holds himself accountable. Caleb thinks for sure that Caleb can do better. You know what I mean? When he's throwing those obviously bad looks right into defenders' hands, man. I mean, Caleb Williams wants to not do that. You know what I mean? So if
everybody's heard about the bird, we got you, Harris.
I think if a player holds themselves accountable, that's just going to get you kind of a leadership. I don't know, a leadership view
holding other people accountable.
Yeah.
And once he's feeling comfortable doing that, then that's just going to produce positive results for the rest of this offense, man.
And they did 8 minutes of mic'd up. Somebody, I think the Bears put together on their Instagram 8 minutes of Caleb mic'd up in the Panthers game, and as like celebratory as he can get, and as kind of goofy as he can be on the sideline.
But let's get back on task.
He's always very stern, even in his celebrate. Like when he walks up to his team after a touchdown, he just says like, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." Did you watch the video?
I watched some of it.
45 seconds of Caleb saying "Let's go." He says it like 22 times. It's just like, okay,
so got that from Tom Brady.
It's like on to the next one. You know what I mean? Kind of seems to be his attitude.
So, I mean, that was a cool thing that I saw. I mean, you talked about, and I just feel like it's worth talking about because everyone keeps talking about the Jaguars. It's their home away from home in Jacksonville. They're comfortable playing there. They're 6-5 in London, dude. Like, they're comfortable. They're almost as comfortable losing as they are winning. So I don't understand, like, why it's an advantage.
I've always looked at those because they do this, multiple sports, professional sports do this, and they do it across the nation, across the globe, right? Not just London. There's a lot of places. These leagues they go to Mexico City now in the NBA, I think. And I've always looked at those,
Brazil in the NFL.
Yeah, I've always looked at those games like they're neutral, like no team is at home. You know what I mean? They both kind of got to adjust to a new schedule. No matter how many times the Jaguars have done it, it's always new to them. You know what I mean? Because it's not the routine. That's the point. So I don't think being in London gives the Jaguars any kind of I don't know.
Like I said, there's 6-5.
There's no advantage there, man. Oh, yeah.
If they were like 8-3, I could understand you saying that, but they almost lose as much as they win in that 11 games. Harris, how many games? Harris asked, how many games has Jacksonville played overseas?
And here's my thing too, man. Is
it's 11-5. Man, I don't know. I don't think that's and they're getting in later than the Bears. They got in today, and like they're
And
gonna
I
have less
can't
time to get adjusted to that time change.
I can't really make this argument on paper, but like I truthfully believe these games to me always have, I've said this before, always have like a college feel.
Yeah.
These games, you know what I mean? These like at Tottenham, it's just that's kind of how it feels to me. So
Okay.
I could see Caleb having a lot of fun with this game.
For sure.
And
I mean, the good thing about the crowd is it's a bipartisan crowd mostly. So
and they just want to see good. They just want to be
whoever is making
impressed.
plays, they're gonna get on
Yeah,
their side. They're gonna get
yeah.
on their side. So if you come
They
out and
just
make
want
some
to be.
plays,
They just want to be impressed because like
mhm,
the sport of football is incredible. It really is. So like that, these people just want to see good football. So a player like Caleb
you could really
might dine on that, man, for sure.
and the fans might, really dine on
Get
him.
get behind him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for sure.
So that I don't know
If
that it's an
if he
advantage
does one
one
of
way or the other.
those, if he does one of those tiptoeing in the pocket to avoid pressure and then rolls out and makes one of those on the move throws, I don't care what country you live in,
Yeah,
you're gonna make some noise. You're gonna
the
make
oohs
some
and
noise
ahs are
for
gonna
that.
be there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into what we expect from Caleb, but I just think it's interesting when you're talking about what time a team's getting over there, what day, and then you start assigning like an advantage to the Jaguars because of the amount of times they've played over there. But again, they're just as susceptible to losing as they are to winning in London. So like, I think it's anybody's game, and I think we're gonna I think we're gonna have a lot of fun watching on Sunday, man.
Yeah, and I think also when you go to these, foreign nations, man, it's not the Jaguars play there a lot, so I'd imagine they've developed a fan base there. But I think the Chicago Bears are one of the fan bases that are pretty well
They travel
widespread.
well.
Woody
They travel
Price
well.
widespread across the world, man. I think there's a lot of just Chicago sports teams in general. I'm sure it has a lot to do with the Bulls' success in the '90s, but I would imagine there's going to be a lot of blue and orange out there, man. I really, really believe that.
That was another thing Caleb came up in Caleb's press conference. Like one of the British reporters asked the obligatory, like, what's give the fans in England a reason to root for your team? Why should they root for your
That's
team?
a cool thing to say to a player, man, for sure.
I mean, you're trying to sell yourself, but Caleb was just like, hey, our colors are cool. DJ Moore is like, we're one of the first franchises. There's history here. Like, I mean, the Bears are going to leave this game having developed a bit of a fan base in that area.
And man, I was saying this in our text earlier. I mean, London's not isolated from the world. You know what I mean? Like they know who Caleb Williams is. The world knows who Caleb Williams is, without a doubt. I mean, he had some clout, man.
Well,
I
if they
mean,
don't know who he is right now, they're gonna know after Sunday. I feel pretty
there's
confident in that.
there's no way that people who are interested, even minorly in Chicago sports, don't know this kid's name, man. I mean, he had so much publicity. It was insane. Right? It was like just like Victor Wembanyama. It was the kind of the same premise. Just those phenoms. I'm not going to say generational this or that, but those phenom kids in college.
For sure, man. Let's get on to the injury report, and so we can start diving into this game a little bit.
Yes, man. I don't like. I don't want to undersell this Brisker thing. A lot of people like there's depth there, and there is, but this sucks for a lot of reasons. One, like you say all the time, Dustin,
So,
continuity.
real quick, Brisker is out for sure. Terrell Smith is out, and Pickens is out. We
Yeah,
know those three are out.
let's start with Brisker. So what sucks is we preach on this show all the time, guys. Continuity. Byard's gonna be playing next to somebody not just different, but less talented, and Byard's probably gonna do a little more work than he normally does. So I mean, it has an effect on the entire defense generally when a player that important, especially in this cover two, when a player that important goes up. But also, Brisker was just starting to like blossom into the guy that I feel like top 10 safety in the NFL, the kind of guy I thought he was going to be a couple of years ago. He was taking that next step, and this couldn't have come at a worse time. And this guy's had 3 concussions now in 2.5 years. He's got more concussions than seasons.
For sure. And that's and part of that is the way he plays football. I mean,
yeah. Did you? So we talked about on our House Hall Hangover, man. We talked about how he missed a tackle on that big run, right?
well, he didn't miss the tackle. He
So he
just took
just took a
himself out
bad
of position
took a bad
completely.
angle.
He
Yeah.
was supposed to fill that gap on that play.
Later, man, when Bryce Young came in the game, so this is I think he was concussed on the play where he knocked Tremble out cold, but later in the
I
game,
think that's safe to say, Brandon.
later in the game when Bryce Young came in, I think it was a pass to Coker. I don't remember who it was, but Brisker just throws his entire body at the player, and he doesn't even make the tackle. It ends up being like a 18-yard catch. But again, I mean, instead of like wrapping a guy up, he has all the time in the world. The players, I think it was Coker's head is turned, but he decides to throw his body violently into the other place. It's just like, man, that's
Flus
not gonna
talked about it. Flus
that's
talked
not
about
gonna
it.
last very long.
Flus talked about it in his press conference, and I mean, from his perspective, Brisker went in to make a hamstring tackle and put his helmet to the side, but Tremble went down, and they both kind of just collided. And from his perspective, Brisker does a pretty good job of keeping his head out of the play for the most part, throughout his career. I don't certain players are affected differently by these concussions. I think we're going to see Brisker back out there next week. I don't know that it's going to become a consistent thing for him in his career, but the way he plays, he's going to put himself in danger sometimes. Missing him in this game, though, now you're talking about Elijah Hicks starting in his place. I'm not the biggest fan of Elijah Hicks. I don't want to go.
This injury makes it's being sold so short. It's a huge.
I don't want to go so far as to say that Elijah Hicks sucks, but I don't like him starting in that role. I'd much rather have Jonathan Owens out there. I said that from the jump. And hopefully
I think whoever, this is what I believe, and I think this is why people are so keen on just settling with next man up here, because like it seems like nobody's heartbroken about Brisker not playing in this game, and it sucks, man. But Brisker he's one of the players on this team, especially this season, that's proven he can make plays, like the one he made on Tremble. The next man up to me is probably going to do the job. You know what I mean? Be there in coverage, but they're not going to be out there making plays. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, they're not really an X factor in the game. Hopefully Hicks doesn't lose us the game with a missed assignment. That's what I worry about. Like a guy who's new coming into the fold and not being on the same page with the rest of the defense and them beating us over the top because of it. That's like my nightmare scenario for this. Hopefully he's well versed in the playbook. I'm sure he is. I would much rather see it be Owens take that role across from Byard, because I think he's more of a playmaker. But
he's also, I believe he started a few games in the NFL at safety.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, it's been free safety, so I guess like their thought process is like the position is not like it's not as easy for him to step into that role.
I think Hicks might have started a game or two for the Bears last year. I know he played.
He did. He played. I mean, again, especially in preseason this year, I just was not impressed by Hicks. I wasn't. So that's probably my biggest concern with this defense at this point. When you start talking about other injuries for the Bears, Tevin Jenkins was limited yesterday and then out today, and is trending towards doubtful to play on Sunday with the ankle. Now, we saw Bill Murray, Caddyshack, come in and really play well. We got a great PFF grade, just has a motor that doesn't quit this guy. He's got that play that's going around where we showed it on the House Hall Hangover, where he just goes and puts a helmet on 3 different guys on one play. So you feel a little better about that. We said, we feel better about the offensive line depth, but now you're one injury away from potentially seeing Nate Davis again. That's the way I look at it. Like Bill Murray, hopefully, I would think that he earned a start this week. He earned another opportunity with the way he played. So he should get that. He should slide into that spot. But now if something else happens, who are we calling on from there? That's where it gets tricky to me.
Yep. And you know where I stand on that guy, man.
I don't want to see Nate Davis. I don't want to see Nate Davis on the field either. I'm standing in the same spot you are, man. So hopefully they can maintain health. Hopefully Tevin Jenkins can practice tomorrow, but it's not trending in the right direction for him.
Well, and it's strange. You would think, I guess you said he was limited, because I was going to say, if they thought somebody wasn't going to play, even bringing him to London before a bye week would be kind of redundant, right? Like,
well, yeah, they didn't bring the guys that they've ruled out already. Those guys did not travel with the team. Mercedes Lewis sat out for veteran rest. Now, good for him. Now, Tyreek Stevenson was limited today. First time on the injury report this season with a calf.
I saw that. I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Kyler Gordon practicing full after being limited. So I mean that's good. But if Tyreek Stevenson, I want to see him with a full practice tomorrow, man. I really want to see that, because I don't think with already missing Brisker, I don't want to see our starting cornerback.
When you're down, Terrell Smith is for sure out.
Terrell Smith is already. I will say this, man. Jalen Jones came in against the Panthers.
Yeah, I like
played
Jones.
Very freaking well. And he played very well all preseason. He was a guy who was on the bubble for the roster. I was really glad they kept him, because I honestly feel like he could be a starting cornerback for some teams in the league, the way he plays. And that gives me a little bit of comfort, but really hope to see Tyreek Stevenson out there. Hopefully he practices tomorrow in full and gets back on track to play on Sunday.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right.
Now the Jaguars got, Travis Etienne limited, Gabe Davis limited, Evan Ingram limited, Devin Lloyd, their linebacker, limited. Darnell Savage was limited. Their starting safety. I mean, and Daniel Thomas, another safety I'm not very familiar with, limited as well. So again, the Bears are going into a game where the injury report for the other team looks a lot more concerning than their own. I mean, the Bears have been on the good side of health so far this season, and they're taking advantage of it to be at 3-2 right now. You wonder how long that's going to last. Hopefully they continue to stay healthy, but offensively, that's kind of scary for the Jaguars. If ATN is limited, Gabe Davis and Evan Ingram, Evan Ingram hasn't played since week 1. I don't think he's on my fantasy team. I haven't played him all this season.
I Googled their injuries today. I read that the ETN thing is it's looking better. It's on the positive side of pain, I guess.
Ingram too. Evan Ingram. I mean, Doug Peterson said that he expects Evan Ingram to suit up. So that's a big deal for their offense.
That's interesting to me, because we haven't. Dalton Schultz is okay. We haven't faced a good tight end yet.
You got the Titans, the Texans. You said Schultz, the Colts,
Rams,
Branson, Mo Alley Cox on the Colts. They don't have anybody. The Rams, Kobe Parkinson was out there not catching targets.
The Panthers got
Jatavian Sanders played decent when he kept. I mean, he dropped a couple balls too.
I like him, man. I think he's gonna be a good player. But they're starting tight end. Went to the hospital, went to sleep. But
Evan Ingram is a really good tight end, and that's a big piece of their offense. They've been missing for multiple weeks in a row.
I wouldn't even call it like he is. You're right, but he's not like
he's like a giant slot receiver.
And he's just reliable. It's he had 114 receptions last year, man. He was 4th on all pass catchers. So I'm interested. Interested to see how Edwards and Edmonds handle that.
Yeah, hopefully he's still not 100%, because if he's at 100%, he's a tough guy to stop, man, at that tight end position. And
you would probably just put Kyler Gordon on him, because he's a smaller tight end.
He's 6'3" though, bro. He's not like short or anything. He's got some height to him too. Kyler Gordon is.
there's yeah, I don't know. If Edmonds or Edwards were getting beat, that's what I would do. I put a
For
DB
sure.
on them.
Or put Byard, put a safety on them maybe. But the thing with the Bears is they're mostly in that cover two. It's rare that they're trailing a guy man to man. But if you have to, I think Byard or Owens might be the guys that I might lean on to try to cover Ingram. I just think that that's something that should be really, really top of mind for Bears fans. Evan Ingram is probably going to play on Sunday, and they haven't had him for weeks. He's a big part of their offense. So, and you add that weapon to that offense with Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence chucking the ball, that could improve a lot of things for this offense. So something to be aware of with that.
And to be honest, man, the guy who's been filling in, I think
Strange.
might be Strange.
Dr.
I think like
Strange.
is he a rookie?
I think so. Yeah. Brian Strange. I'm pretty sure he is a rookie. He's caught 2 touchdowns.
It's like Brenton Strange or something, man. But yeah,
Okay.
no, he's Trevor Lawrence has found him. So like, if he's got a tight end with a little more experience, a little more reliable, he's going to throw the ball.
A little bit more athletic ability too.
He's going to throw the ball a lot to Evan Ingram once Evan Ingram returns against any team they play. So
yeah, and like you said, the Bears
that's a piece I'd be mindful of if I'm Chicago, because
Yeah.
you're watching a lot of film, and you're not. You better. I'm hoping Flus threw in a couple of games from last season when Ingram was on the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, the Bears haven't really been tasked with having to cover a very good tight end yet this season, so we don't really know how they hold up. It'll be a good test for them. If he's playing, it'll be a good test for them. What we going to next, man? We got the injury report out of the way. Tevin Jenkins hopefully can practice. It's not looking good, but where does this game start and end with you, man? Like where do you think that this game, where the rubber meets the road with this game, and if getting the Bears win this Sunday?
I think the most important thing to do on defense, man, is get pressure on Trevor Lawrence. The Bears are getting burned against the run, but it seems like they're surviving. They're overcoming this by just being really dominant at the line of scrimmage and having really, really quality players in their secondary.
So when you say they're getting burned by the run, they're allowing 126 rushing yards per game. That's 11th worst in the NFL.
Yeah. So but it's come at a cost for the teams who run the ball efficiently against the Bears. They can't get anything going in the air. So like, if the Bears can get pressure on a team that you just mentioned to me hasn't had many turnovers, Lawrence only has 2 interceptions this year, guys.
Yeah, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's been pretty efficient with the ball in that regard.
If the Bears can get pressure on him, he will turn the ball over.
So they're giving up 2.6 sacks per game.
He's good in the pocket.
Yeah,
Lawrence is good at moving around and getting away.
The Jags are giving up 2.6 sacks per game. That's 17th in the NFL. I mean, that's middle of the pack. The Bears are getting 2.8 sacks per game. So those numbers kind of line up to where you should think pretty confidently the Bears should be able to get at least three sacks in this game going into this. Just based on the way both teams have performed up to this point, 3 sacks at least. I think that's a pretty good number for, and it's not just the sacks, right? Like you said, it's the pressure, getting pressure on him, making him uncomfortable in the pocket, because he is good in the pocket and he's strong in the pocket. He's hard to take down.
He's good on the move too, man. He's a guy who, I think he rushed for like 6 touchdowns last year or something. I think he was the league leader in rushing touchdowns.
In the quarterback position. Yeah.
So, Trevor Lawrence is the best part of the Jaguars. I mean, we could talk about Joshua Hines-Allen. We can talk about Trayvon Walker. We could talk about Brian Thomas. We could talk about Evan Ingram. But Trevor Lawrence, to me, man, a lot of people still don't believe. I think he's the best part of this Jaguars team. I think he's the guy you got to worry about. So I think you got to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence.
For sure.
He's having a decent year. I think he just threw 371 yards and 2 touchdowns or something, man, to beat that Colts team for their first win. I mean, this is a guy who can catch fire. And like I said, I would say that ETN is or Bigsby are my worries, but I expect they'll be somewhere around 100 yards rushing. So just make sure you limit that passing game to what you like. What the Bears are like, what, 160, 170?
The Bears are giving up
Passing.
Yeah, well, they're giving up 5. I was more focused on the yards per pass that they're giving up. They're giving up 5.7 yards per pass. That's 6th in the NFL. I thought that was a pretty encouraging stat.
I think it's somewhere between like 170 to 180. I think, man, what they're giving up a game, it's an outrageously low
174, 174, and it's 6th in the NFL. 174.
That is an extremely low number. If you hold Trevor Lawrence to 174, no matter.
Do you know what the Jags are passing for per game? 201 yards. 201 pass yards per game. And in terms of pass yards per play, 6.8. That's 22nd in the NFL. So if you look at the fact that the Bears are only allowing 5.7, and they're not very good in terms of yards per attempt, and Trevor Lawrence is completing 59% of his passes, man. They're 31st in the league in terms of a team, in terms of pass completion percentage. And the Bears are allowing 61.8% pass completion percentage. So that's another stat that lines up really well for the Bears. We talked about the sacks.
Well, yeah, and this is a pass heavy team, aren't they, Jacksonville? So
yes, they are.
You want to get into the backfield, man. You want to get some pressure on the quarterback because I don't know, maybe Jacksonville will feel like they're forced. What I'm hoping for, man, in this game is that the Bears get up early so they can get like a 2 touchdown, like a 14-0 lead early in this game. And then you force this Jacksonville team to throw the ball, and at a 59% completion rating, I think Trevor Lawrence is probably going to throw the ball away once or twice.
This is a fun stat. This is a fun stat for what you're talking about, hoping the Bears get up early. The Jags are 31st in the league at first half points per game allowed at 16.2. They're allowing 16 points per game in the first half. That's a good sign. The Bears, the last 2 weeks, have done.
This Jacksonville team that allows 28 points total per game.
Yep, 28.6 points per game. That's 30th in the NFL.
That is awful. That is awful. No matter what this offense does, if they continue to allow almost 30 points a game, it's going to be a long season for Jacksonville.
And that's something I wanted to touch on, man, because the Bears are not great against the run, right? I mean, they're allowing the 120. That's 18th in the league. They're not horrible. They're not great. They're kind of middle of the pack. The Jags are really good against the run. But I think those stats are skewed a little bit, man, because you look at their rush yards per game that they're holding teams to, it's 105. But that's on 25 attempts a game. That's 15th in the league. So they're 8th in the league at stopping the run, but they're 15th in the league in terms of attempts against. And their rushing percentage against is 39%. So teams aren't running the ball against them because they can get everything they want or need in the pass. Like the amount of points that they're allowing is insane. They're allowing 1.2 rushing touchdowns per game. That's 22nd in the league. Passes against per game, 37.4. That's 28th in the league, man. Completion percentage against, 69.52% completed passes against the Jaguars defense. That's 25th in the league. So, like, we can focus on how they're good at stopping the run, but I think those numbers are skewed by the fact that teams are just throwing the fucking ball all over them, and they're going up and they're scoring points on them. They're able to get up and down the field on them. So I think that's something that the Bears can exploit, given that their passing game is improving week to week. They're still, bottom of the league in passing, the Bears, but it's improved drastically from like 32nd in the league to now they're 22nd in pass yards per game. So like those improvements are happening, and they're happening because The Bears are playing teams that are really bad in these stats. Passing touchdowns against, pass yards against, pass yards per attempt. Jags are 28th in pass yards per attempt against, 32nd in pass yards against, and 28th in pass touchdowns against. They're allowing 2 passing touchdowns a game. These are all very similar stats to what we saw with the Rams and what we saw with the Panthers. And what we saw with those games is that the Bears are finding ways to exploit those things. So I feel really good about the Bears being able to exploit those very same things against the Jaguars on Sunday, man.
Yeah, Shane Waldron's done a good job at kind of picking on the weaknesses of the defenses they've played in the last couple of weeks. And I have no doubt, man. I mean, I feel like I said this early in this. I'm going to say this again, man, and I truthfully believe this. I think Caleb's gonna have a really good football game.
He is.
Game. I think he's going to throw over 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns probably. And I do think DeAndre
that tracks,
Swift,
man, with what the stats the Jaguars are giving up. Now,
I do think DeAndre Swift is still heavily involved in this game. I think that's Caleb Williams has learned really well. And man, I mean, we're not seeing the whole field when we're watching these games, but I would imagine if Caleb's not ready to take a shot, this guy, he's confident. If he's not ready to take a shot, players are really well covered downfield. There was 4 or 5 plays in that game against Carolina that he made his reads and he clearly didn't see anything, and he dumped the ball off and he checked down, and
which is what we were asking of him too, because he kept trying to force those earlier in the season.
Yeah. And I think now that he's comfortable doing that, because I think the last 2 weeks is the first time I've really seen him go through every read and see nothing was open and not
just that he's comfortable with it. He's seen it be.
Well, and he's not throwing it to defenders, and he's not taking bad sacks because Caleb Williams had to catch on to the fact that DeAndre Swift is literally here for him. I mean, that's what this guy is here to be an outlet. And Caleb's caught on that, and I don't think that's going away. You know what I mean? Even against teams that defend the run well, I think DeAndre Swift, if he's not running the ball efficiently, still has to be a major part of this Bears offense.
And that's the one place where it lines up really well for the Jags. In terms of the rush yards per game, I talked to the yards per rush against them is 6th in the league. They're only allowing 4.1 yards per rush, whereas the Bears are only averaging 3.4 yards per rush. You want to guess where that is in the league? 3.4 yards per rush?
31st.
32nd. It's the worst in the league. They're still the worst in the league at running the football.
I would love to see. I want to know though what I want to know what there's. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I want to know what their stats are against pass catching backs.
Well, I mean that just in terms of, I guess you could say that in terms of against the pass in general, the Jags fucking suck. So the Bears should be able to take advantage of that. I mean, backs catching the football. We know DeAndre Swift is really good at catching the football. He's one of the top players in the league right now in yards after the catch. He's the top player on the Bears team. He's got a great average. It's double digits. I didn't pull up those numbers this week, but last week they were great, and they only got better after this game against the Panthers, man. So we know that he's a weapon, and we know that the Jags have a really tough time stopping the pass in general. So I don't see any reason why DeAndre Swift does not eat very well in this game again, man. DeAndre Swift, I've said it before, I'll continue to say it. He is the key to this Bears offense. He's the key to unlocking the dynamic plays in this offense, because when he touches the ball, he's one missed tackle away from a huge fucking play. And then that just opens up so much more, because now your linebackers need to come up to try to be prepared for that. And it just opens up more of the field for Caleb to go downfield, man. So, and if they're not getting, I want to stress this because I said it last week, the last 2 weeks where they come out and they're having a tough time running the football, you still got to stick with it, man. You still got to make them respect it. Even if you're getting that 3.5 yards per rush, do it enough to where they respect it, because what came about last week is what I was begging for, and I called it out on the bare minimum. We're going to see the play action start to take off with this offense. And we saw Caleb be really successful out of the play action. I think Sean said on Monday those stats were 6 to 7 for 100 yards out of the play action for Caleb and a couple of touchdowns, man. So that'll be a big part of this Bears offense. And we just got to make the Jags respected enough to
have you seen his numbers against the blitz since, I think it was since week 1?
I have. I don't have them off the top of my head, and I don't have them in front of me here, but
He's like
they're good.
He's like a top 3 quarterback. His rating's over 100 against the blitz now in the last like 4 games. But what? So you asked me where I think on defense the Bears have to. I
more just asked you in general where the rubber meets the road. I mean, it's a simple thing to say. If you establish the run and if you stop the run, you're going to win the game. And we have made it that simple in a couple of our episodes where like the team that establishes the run is going to win this game. I don't know that it's that simple in this game, man. I mean, the Jags are just allowing way too many points for me to feel that way.
Well, and I'm not going to, moving forward, man, until I see something different, I'm not going to say the Bears on defense need to stop the run because they're not doing so and they're winning football games. So the Bears need to keep doing what the hell they are doing. Well, 27 pressures last week on Andy Dalton. They need to do something along those lines. And this offensive line in Jacksonville isn't ranked one of the best. I can tell you that for sure. So they need to, if you say 3 sacks, that's what the Bears average, basically. It's what the Jaguars allow. 3 sacks, I'm good with that because I think if you get 3 sacks, that means you're probably generally getting pressure on this line. And that probably means that Trevor Lawrence is making mistakes.
For sure. And like we talked about his completion percentage and they are giving up some sacks and they choose to pass a lot more than they choose to run. We can talk about how good they are with the run. Until this team has a change in leadership, I don't see them changing the way that they've been playing. They're going into this game with a very established pattern that they want to do 60 to 65% pass plays on offense. And when Trevor Lawrence is completing less than 60% of his passes, I think I'm okay with that. Another thing that gives me some confidence going into this game in terms of how it'll play out, man, Jags are only averaging 19.4 points per game. That's 21st in the NFL. They're 44.44% red zone scoring. Those are touchdowns. Red zone touchdown scoring. That's 24th in the league. Now, the Bears in the red zone as a defense are only allowing touchdown on 38.46% of their red zone trips. And that's 5th in the league. The Bears are really good at keeping teams out of the end zone when they get into the red zone. That's what we talk about, right? Like they let these teams move the ball, but then they don't let them score. And they're good at forcing turnovers, which stops the score from happening. And you mentioned it before the show, man. These Jags running backs can put the ball on the ground in 5 games. They each have a fumble. And we see, like, we got guys like in Tremaine Edmonds and
they have 7 fumbles on the season.
7 fumbles on the season. You said they only lost 3 of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, but if they put the ball on the ground against this Bears team, the Bears are going to get on top of it. I feel pretty confident in that. So we could see a couple of at least one forced fumble in this game that could turn this game on its head for the Bears defense. Again, the fact that the Bears are so good at keeping teams out of the end zone in the red zone and the Jags are really pretty bad at scoring in the red zone, that's another thing that really portends very well for this Bears team on Sunday, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think I don't know. There's a lot of areas to exploit on this Jacksonville team. There really is. I mean, not just their offensive line, their secondary, but they're just not well coached either. They're really not. I mean, I know we've seen some bad games from Eberflus, like that game against the Colts, but I feel like every Jacksonville game kind of is like that Bears-Colts game. Honestly,
even the one they won last week, there was questionable decisions, man.
This guy just that's kind of why that was a bad segue, but I want to ask you, man, is this the game that gets, I gotta ask, is this the game that gets Doug Peterson fired?
We were talking about this earlier, man. Is he going to be the first coach that's fired in London? They're going to be in London for 2 straight weeks here because they got the Patriots the following week in London, the Jaguars. So it's like you kind of start thinking about it. You're like, would a team send its coach home while they're in London and like say, we're fucking done with you, dude. Get out of here. I think Doug Peterson might deserve that treatment.
Get a commercial fight. Yeah.
How great would it be? We've seen people like Corey Wooten injure Aaron Rodgers. We've seen like Bears teams take teams out of the playoffs, stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty fucking awesome.
Corey Wooten ended Favre's career.
Favre's career, that's what it was. Yeah, with the Packers, yeah. And was it Shea McClellan that injured?
Wasn't with the Packers. He ended his career
With the Vikings, wasn't it?
It was his last. Yeah. I think it was his last play as a football player, wasn't it?
With the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking of Shea McClellan with Aaron Rodgers, I think, when he injured him.
He tore Favre tore something, and then just hung it up.
Yeah. But I guess I was just kind of saying, like, it would be pretty cool to see the Bears beat the Jaguars so badly in this game that they fired Doug Peterson and they produced the first head coach firing in London. That would be pretty cool. I think it's a possibility, man. As much as you try to think of the logistics of it and how that works for a team, eventually this Jaguars team is gonna get fed up with Doug Peterson. He doesn't really take accountability. He always finds someone to blame when shit goes wrong.
I think they kind of already have kind of given up, man. I think that's why they came into this season so poorly.
We saw Robert Saleh get fired, after a poor performance in London against the
Doug's next. Doug's next.
I think Doug Peterson is next. Whether it's this week or the next, I will find out. It might be
I was saying to a guy I work with today, it could be the severity of the loss. Like if the Bears just go into London,
if they beat the shit out of the Jaguars,
they played 11 times and they just smoke them. Like that would have to be the writing on the wall. I think for sure. If not, then when else are you going to do it? You know what I mean?
I don't really want to root for anyone to lose their job, but at the same time, there's only 32 positions to be a head coach in the NFL, and I feel like you should be, you got to be a competent person to hold down.
Wait, hold on. So, what do you mean you don't want to root for somebody to lose their job? We do it all the time. When there's a bad head coach in Chicago,
when you're talking about a head coach,
this is strange. Because we talked about Dustin's team and his team, and he does love and he lives and breathes Niners, guys. He's always rooted for him. He's never broken that. He's always
for context. I grew up in Chicago, but my grandfather, who was like my father figure growing up, was a Niners fan, so I rooted for them as well. But yes, I am a big Niners fan. Yes.
Yeah, so I enjoy watching the Jaguars when I'm not watching the Bears. I especially like that. I think. My team out of the AFC is the Jaguars. That's out of the AFC. That's the team that I want to succeed. But so I've watched a lot of this team. So from this perspective, I would have as a Bears fan, like fire Nagy when he sucked, fire Trestman when he sucked, fire John Fox when he sucked.
Yeah, you see these guys ruining your team. It becomes personal.
As a guy who kind of roots for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him to lose his job, bro.
Yeah, because I do think
no problem.
We discussed this. We discussed this very early on in the season that we think the Jaguars might actually get their shit together if they fire Doug Peterson. It's just about how early they do it because this is a talented football team, man. They got some really talented players on both sides of the football.
Yeah, you know what, man? To be honest, what I wanted to start tonight by basically saying like Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Trevor Lawrence. All of these really good components.
Joshua Hines, Allen, Trayvon Walker.
All these, right? Flip to the defensive side. Eric Armstead,
they have some ballers on.
People forget Armstead joined this team. So they've got all these really good components to a really poorly oiled machine. That's kind of what this team is.
Yeah. When you look at what they are defensively,
they're missing the component that makes it all run. Honestly, that's the fucking thing they don't have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if they do fire Doug Peterson, they will become a better team instantly. Immediately, they will start winning games. I really do believe that. So, for the Jags fans, I guess I do hope for that. And I do hope the Bears beat the shit out of the Jaguars and force that decision upon Shad Khan while in London, where it's just like we can't come out and put up this kind of effort, in our home away from home, as people like to call it. So I think that is up for grabs in this coming week. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and I don't think it's silly to talk about, to be honest. Doug Peterson is on the hot seat, and we just saw Rob Saleh get fired. The floodgates might open on a lot of these teams thinking, like, we got to get a head start on searching for our guy. Not because the Jets are already in that market,
Well, and I find that the head coaching clock in the NFL has sped up so much because it's become the trend has become try to win with that quarterback when he's on the rookie deal. That didn't happen for Jacksonville, and then they gave him $100 million, $200 million,
yeah,
and the guy's still losing. So it's like now you're when
now you're playing with my money.
When a team's invested a team's invested in a quarterback, like when they're fully invested in a quarterback, the head coach is the guy who's just you're really close to being fired every day now. That's
dude, you got a fucking ghost over there?
no,
you got
no, I got a cat.
Doors creaking open and
no, it's the cat.
And
I don't know what the hell.
Okay, that was creepy. Man,
hey, this house is over 100 years old.
For sure. And the Bears.
Let me ask you this, man. Well, I guess I'm gonna start a new segment and
transition as we were floundering there.
Yeah, fucking cats. Call it cliche, but who are your most impactful players in this game? One on offense, one on defense.
For the Bears?
Yeah, I would like. I want to word it like the guy who needs to be the best, but I'm asking you, like, who is it? Who do you think it's going to be?
I think DeAndre Swift has another huge game, man. I think DeAndre Swift does it in the run game and the pass game again on Sunday, and I think the Bears offense starts and ends with that. That answer might not change for me this entire season, to be honest. I mean, Caleb Williams is the quarterback, man. He's going to have to make the plays, but a guy like DeAndre Swift, like you said, who's his safety net, like to make the game easier on that rookie quarterback, that's huge. It's just so huge. And if I'm gonna if I can cheat a little bit on offense, I mean, this offensive line, man, we saw the offensive line hold up big time against the Panthers. They weren't generating much of a pass rush against this. Now the Jags are getting 2.2 sacks per game. Trayvon Walker has 5 sacks on the season. He's got the majority of the Jaguars sacks, so that's going to be a matchup to watch. But if this Bears O-line can hold up again, it's going to get. If Caleb has time, he's going to be good. Yeah, if they get pressure on Caleb,
he's having a monster year, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, but if now say Trayvon Walker is on Braxton Jones the whole game and he pulls a Jared Verse and just pushes, Braxton Jones' backside into Caleb Williams every fucking play, it's gonna be hard to move the ball on offense. But I think Swift is the guy that I lean on if I'm the Bears again. And on defense, man, I think it's Tyreek Stevenson. Tyreek Stevenson is going to be tasked with the toughest matchup of this game, like he always is. They're going to put their best receiver, Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas is the Jaguars' best receiver by far. It's not close. They're going to put him on Tyreek Stevenson. It's not even close, guys. Christian Kirk is a good player. I like him. I thought about drafting him in fantasy. I'm glad I didn't. But Brian Thomas is really, really good. He's a great playmaker downfield. Well, they're going to try to attack Tyreek Stevenson with him.
And he's been really good as a receiver in general, but for a rookie, this looks like a kid is going to blossom into something really special. And I don't mean like next year. I mean like very soon. Like I think as soon as, like you said, Dustin, if there's a coaching change that's made for this team, I think somebody can figure this out with the pieces that are on this football team. And I would expect Brian Thomas to have a really good finish to this season if he's somebody who took
he's had a damn good start already, man.
That's what I'm saying. If you took this guy as like a fantasy, like a keeper league, you're sitting on dynamite.
Brian Thomas receiving stats. He's got 22 receptions. He's got 22 receptions on 34 targets, 397 yards. He's averaging 18 yards a catch. He is a deep threat. He just had an 85-yard touchdown last week. 3 touchdowns. I mean, averaging 79 yards a game. The guy is a stud. The Bears are going to need to bracket him. They're going to need to put safety help over the top.
He's 6'3", like 215, I think.
6'4", 205, bud.
And he runs like a 4.33 or something. Man.
Yeah. And he just celebrated a birthday. He's a Libra like me. Yeah. October 8th, 2002. So, yeah, I mean, I think Tyree Stevenson's going to have to win some one-on-one matchups with Brian Thomas. The Jaguars are going to be trying to get one-on-one with Tyreek Stevenson as much as possible with Brian Thomas on the other side. So I think Tyreek Stevenson needs to have a huge game, and that's why that injury concerns me, man. If he's battling an injury as well as battling Brian Thomas on Sunday, that could be tough. That could be tough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think Stevenson's going to be tasked with Brian Thomas for most of this game. I think that's the way the Jaguars are going to draw it up.
We've made this point before, guys. Just want to, like, Tyree Stevenson and Jalen Johnson are not switching sides. Jalen Johnson's not going with their best receiver. Teams on offense always know that they can put their best receiver on the Bears' worst cornerback. I mean, nobody wants to mess with Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, that's
so Tyree Stevenson is going to get taken advantage of.
That's the way it's been coached all years. People are passing heavily to and that's also, guys, this is also the way, when you're as good as Jalen Johnson, this is also the way it plays out by the quarterback as well in play, during the play. You know what I mean? It's not just drawn up by an offense to attack a certain player or stay away from one. The quarterback sees Jalen Johnson and just doesn't want to.
9 times out of 10, Trevor Lawrence is going to walk to the line of scrimmage knowing he's not even looking that direction. Yeah. Like that, it's not even like in the play. It's before the play. Trevor Lawrence has decided, yeah, I'm not going over there. That's for sure.
That's the impact he's had as playing the way he's played. So,
which can be an advantage for your defense, because that eliminates a whole half of the field. Now you can send help onto the other side. So hopefully, because I don't want to see Tyree Stevenson one-on-one with Brian Thomas too often through this game.
I like yours. I like both yours. I'm going to say defensively, I think
bud.
Yeah. You said they allowed like 2.8 sacks per game or something like that.
They're allowing 2.6 sacks per game. The Bears are getting 2.8.
So my guy on defense is going to be Javon Dexter. If he has another one of these games, he had 4 QB hits last week, guys, with a sack. If he has another game like that, that's going to be.
I expected a big game from Dexter last week, and he came through for sure.
He's gonna I don't know. He's gonna make mistakes occur on that Jaguars team if he gets home. My guy on offense, man, is Caleb. I do think that Swift, like you said, man, is a piece that you kind of have to heavily depend on to be successful. But I also think in this sort of game that the Bears are going to play here, I think Swift is going to be better as a pass catcher than a running back.
Yeah.
So Caleb's obviously the guy who's in charge of getting him the ball. So I think, and they don't draw much. Waldron still hasn't drawn much up for Swift. Like get Swift.
I mean, last week they had that screen pass that went for 43 yards, I believe.
Yeah, the one where he was like a few yards away from the end zone.
Yeah.
Did you see that on that mic'd up that I posted?
What?
Caleb, his reaction.
No.
He's got his hands up and he's like, "Get in the end zone!" And he runs up to Swift. He's like, "You didn't even try." He's like, "Get in the end zone." But dude, his voice, he sounds like a schoolgirl. I love Caleb Williams and it's hilarious. But he's like, "What? He's like, "Get in the end zone." It's like, what the dude? Like,
that was the play where Braxton Jones allowed immediate pressure on Caleb, wasn't it? A screen pass, or no, that was against the Rams. Sorry.
No, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, where Jared Verse just crushed.
Yeah, it was on a screen pass. It was on a screen pass. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting my my beard.
But like you just said though, man, and that play was huge. But they don't really. Swift has more often caught the ball since he's been a Chicago Bear after Caleb Milling, like literally as a check down.
Like he's blocking and then leaking out.
Right. So screen pass is direct. The screen pass is drawn up for the running back, but a check down is like Caleb knows that's his last option, and that's the way I think Swift has been used in this offense, and it's working beautifully.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to. Ant Mass,
what's up?
What up, dude? The chat got so quiet. I'm sorry, I lost track of it. I wanted to touch on the interior of this offensive line when it comes to what you're talking about in terms of Javon Dexter having an impact on this game. Ezra Cleveland's a solid guard. He is. He's their left guard. Mitch Morse, they signed out of Buffalo, he's a good center. And Brandon Scherf, who's been around the league
for a
lot. I mean, he's steady. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's nothing special. So it's going to be a little tough, I think. It's going to be tougher in this game for sure than it was last week for Javon Dexter to get off. But these are the kind of matchups you want to see him win when, can he beat the guy across from him, even if those guys are, as the competition level goes up, because, once we start getting into the NFC North, you got some really good interior offensive lines, some really good guys on the interior that Javon Dexter is going to have to beat for this defense to continue doing what it's doing. So it would be really nice to see Javon Dexter step up against a much more talented interior offensive line than they played last week when he had his big game.
Hey, Amos, one player on defense, one player on offense that's most important to you in this game.
The X factors.
That was the topic. Yeah, give us one.
So yours are Javon Dexter on the defensive side, and
I couldn't decide between him or Montez Sweat, man. It was tough for me to make that decision.
Montez Sweat is going to be going up against Anton Harrison. I don't know much about Anton Harrison, but I know he's going to have a hard time on Sunday. That's what I do know. I mean, Cam Robinson is their left tackle. I mean, they paid him. He's decent. Yeah, that needs to show up big time, MS. Who are the guys that if this guy's going off?
I kind of clarified this. Not the guy that you believe needs to be, the guy that you think is going to, the guy that just will in this game. The way it's dictated, the way this game dictates itself. Who do you think will be the guy that the Bears rely on most on both sides of the football?
I think they're both kind of the same. I can see Montez Sweat, having a big game, but yours were Javon Dexter and Caleb. Mine was DeAndre Swift on the offensive side and Tyreek Stevenson, because I do think he's going to have the toughest job on Sunday, health permitting. Him being on the injury report concerns me. He's not on it very often. So, but
it says Dex and Rome. Okay, it's got a receiver.
Those outside cornerbacks, you got
not good. Rome can eat all day.
Monteric Brown, and Ronald Darby as their outside cornerbacks. Yeah. You can see these. Listen, they're giving up 287 pass yards per game, 7.7. I've done this already, but I want to say it again: 7.7 pass yards per attempt, 2 passing touchdowns per game. Rome can go off in this game for sure. Rome is leading the Bears in yards per catch. He's a guy who can make the plays on the boundaries against these outside cornerbacks, and I love that pick, Ant Mess. I do. I can see Rome having a big game too, and he kind of needs to against this level of competition.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's played better for sure. So we got him more involved last week. I think he's about to start having those DJ Moore games soon here, man.
6 targets last week for Rome. I mean, I really think the number for him is 8. I think if you're getting between, it's tough with those 3 receivers, man, because Rome, DJ had 8 last week. Rome had 6, Keenan had 6. That's 20 targets between 3 receivers. That's a lot, So I mean, you're probably looking at that same formula every week, that 20 targets per game to those 3 receivers, just how it's divvied up. Now,
That's
if
so
DJ,
well. That's so well spread. I don't know if you're gonna get that every week. That's
I,
ridiculous.
I think no, I think that's kind of where you want it to be. If you're the Bears, you do want.
Well, sure,
What,
but
what
that's
who gets those targets is another thing. It could be 10 targets for Rome on Sunday and 5 for those other guys. Who knows how that plays out? It's really going to depend on the matchups. The only thing that I will say, man, you've
well, it
been saying
depends. So let me ask you, who do they play? I haven't really watched the Jaguars this year, to be honest, man, because we anticipated all off season this was going to be a really bad football team. Do they play more man or more zone?
Rome's been open a lot, and if the Jags zero in on DJ, then hoping Rome will eat.
Or
That's
do they play more man or zone? Because if any defense is gonna play Rome Odunze in man,
I have not
they're
watched a lot of Jaguars this year.
they're in deep shit. Like if you can, Rome has struggled with the zone, to be honest, which is kind of strange because you know what I'm saying, Dustin.
Yeah, he's more of a man beater.
We've seen
He's
a
more.
few times where he made a major mistake in zone defense. He quit on a route or stopped on a route and almost got caused an interception. He continued instead of curling on a route. Like he's done a few things, but if he's in man, he's third in the league in separation.
I mean, MS says, man, I think, honestly, I wish I knew the answer to this question, man. I have not watched a lot of Jaguars football this year, to be honest. That's a that's a that's a great question, man. I guess we're gonna see on Sunday. I really hate that we don't have that answer right now. But I don't really know who these fucking cornerbacks are. Ronald Darby is more of a man corner. I mean, from what I've seen of him in the past, Monteric Brown, I have no idea who that guy even is. So
Ryan Nielsen is the
looking
defensive
at that,
coordinator.
4-3 multiple front is all I'm really seeing. I would imagine if it's a 4-3, guys, it's usually a zone concept. I'll just say that 3-4 defense is usually more man, just because you can bring more pressure in the 3-4. Jags D MS says Jags D lines good run stoppers. He's hoping our O line has improved since the first 3 weeks. That's what we were talking about too, man. Like, can this offensive line hold up like they did last week against the Panthers? And again, we're talking about 2.2 sacks per game for the Jaguars. That's something that's similar to what I think the Panthers were at 1.8 going into that game. I think, but you clearly have Joshua Hines Allen and Tavon Walker. The Panthers had nobody near the level of those two guys, so that's a little scary. And then you brought up Eric Armstead, who's a good penetrator. What's up? What?
It's it's Joshua Allen Hines, I think.
Joshua Allen Hines?
Or is
No,
it?
I
No,
don't
you're
think so.
right. It's Joshua Hines Allen. Yeah.
I'm just
It's
specifying
just
so I don't
funny.
have to fucking
No, I know.
give the whole explanation.
It's funny that you said that because I kept telling myself before tonight's episode, say Joshua Allen Hines, so you don't have to explain that you're not talking about somebody else.
Well, instead, you didn't say it, and then you corrected me when I was right.
I did say it. I did say it. The first time I mentioned him, I did say it. Here you go. Eric Armstead, man, Trayvon Walker, and Joshua Hines Allen.
Yeah.
Obviously, impact players, all three of those guys. You got to. It's offensive line. So Ant Mass is saying right now, Jags D line, good run stoppers. I'm hoping our O line has improved. Yeah, me and you both, Ant Mass, because you're about to have a handful. I mean, all of these guys, all five of these guys are about to have their hands full because Armstead can play inside. So
Yeah, it looks like Ryan Nielsen was the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons last year.
Yeah,
And
I just read that.
yeah,
And he transitioned their defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3.
the Falcons ran a multitude of varying fronts and coverages, but primarily seemed to lean toward playing a moderate amount of cover 1 man or cover 3 press match. So it seems like a bit of a hybrid between the man coverage and the cover 3.
So Ant Mass might have hit it on the head, man. This could be a big day for Omadunze for sure.
Yeah, if they're gonna put those shitty cornerbacks 1-on-1 with our receivers, man, someone's gonna eat. Someone's gonna eat.
Yeah. The problem with playing man is when you do so, you got to have quality DBs, man.
Yeah, I would think that they're going to be playing a lot more zone based on just how terrible they've been against the pass. I don't know, man. Where do you again? We asked it like, where do you think what if the Bears do this well, this whatever aspect of the game, that means they win. What do you think that is?
Well, I think if they exploit this secondary, man, and I know we've said before, if they have 3.5 yards per carry, keep pressing the ball. At least let the Jaguars think, because you've done it for 2 weeks. It'll be very easy to convince this Jaguars team that you are going to keep pressing the run. You know what I mean? So I think this secondary doesn't seem very hard to start exploiting, man. Caleb Williams has progressed every week. I think he's a good enough player to pick apart this Jaguars secondary. I think that's how good Caleb is now. You know what I mean? If we
MS
were,
points out that the Jags arrived after a hurricane delay. They were already going to leave on Thursday and then got delayed. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. I mean, I think it's going to be a big deal for them. Honestly, the Bears being here and being acclimated. So you're just saying like basically your game plan should be to exploit what they're showing you they're horrible at.
yeah, especially and I want to say this week after week after week after week, and at one week it finally come to fruition. They have 3 really good receivers, man. Like against one of the league's worst secondaries, we shouldn't just be talking about Rome Odunze or DJ Moore, Keenan. Like all these guys should eat. You know what I mean? Like Keenan Allen should have a
Cole
good.
Kmet, DeAndre
Yeah,
Swift. I mean, the amount of weapons this Bears team has in the passing game, if they can protect Caleb, I think that's what it comes down to for me, man. Because to do what you're saying, to take advantage of what this Jags defense is so
yeah.
bad at.
Braxton Jones might be the key of the game for sure.
Yeah. Because if Trayvon Walker is dominating him or Josh Allen, whoever it might be, like that's going to cause some problems for Caleb, and it's going to throw a big wrench in us being able to pass. And then if we can't pass and we can't run, then that becomes a problem again.
Yeah,
The Jags,
that becomes week 1.
well, correct,
All
or
over
even
it.
that Rams game where you're in a tight battle, and then that game can go either way. The Bears getting out to a comfortable margin, like you said early, is going to be huge. I think this game comes down to, can you protect Caleb, and can you continue to score well in the red zone? Because this Jags defense is
Well,
just
and more importantly, because some of the defenses this Bears is going to face, their offensive line is not going to be enough. I've said this so many times, guys, since in the offseason I said it. How many times, Dustin, have I said this? They're going to be overwhelmed by good units. That's not going to change. The Bears aren't ever they're not getting new personnel. It's the same guys.
well, they did get some new personnel though.
Yeah.
But they did.
But these guys can play well against bad units. They can play okay against okay units.
Oh shit, I missed this from Ant Mass.
And they
Sorry to
get
give
over
this prediction. 24-21 Bears
21
W.
Bears win. Okay. He's got the Bears win. I think that's covering the spread, isn't it? Isn't the
Nah,
spread like 2.5 or something?
I thought. Let's see here. I'll pull it up.
But what was I just saying, man? I lose my thought.
Sorry, boss. I was talking about the red zone for the Bears because the Bears are.
This offensive line is so. If they're not doing well against
It's in the
this
Vegas
Jaguars,
zone. The
they're not
Bears are
doing.
1.5-point favorites. 1.5-point favorites. So yes,
So
that is.
if you're not doing well against this Jaguars front, Waldron's got to scheme some things. You got to start moving the pocket. You know what I mean? Caleb can make those throws, man. That's the benefit of having a quarterback like this, is you can do these things. There's like we talked about before the season started, guys. Caleb should make the offensive line better, but only because he can do things that puts the offensive line in better positions to succeed, right? And moving this pocket and getting Caleb rolling out where he can distance himself from the defenders I think that'll lead to good things against this Jaguars secondary. I really do. Yeah, I want to see Caleb rolling out, man.
Okay. I look at things like the Jaguars' time of possession at 27 minutes and that being 30th in the league. Um, I look at them on third down, the Jaguars, they're 25.93% conversion rate on third down. That's 30th in the league. I look at them at red zone scoring, they're 24th in the league. I look at them at plays per game, 57.6. That's 29th in the league. I mean, the things that they are bad at are the things that lose you football games. Like you can't stop a team. They're allowing touchdowns on 70.59% of their opponent's trips to the red zone, guys.
28 points per game. That's
They're 30th in both of those categories. So when you look at those things, those are just the things that lose you football games. So the Bears, we do know that they've done a really good job of playing complementary football the last 2 weeks, where the defense is getting them the ball in advantageous positions, and so is the special teams, and the offense is capitalizing on it. There's going to be a moment in this game where the Bears end up with really good field position, and they're going to be able to take advantage of it against this Jaguars team, man. They're going to get a turnover. The Bears should win the turnover battle in this game too, which is going to be a huge key. So I think all of the key factors that go into winning or losing a football game, the Bears have the advantage. They're going to control the clock better. They're going to control the game better, and they're going to score on a higher percentage of their plays. I mean, and they're going to do a good job of keeping this team from scoring, who's really not. The Jags aren't good at it. They're not good at sustaining drives. They are a big play team. All right, they're averaging 327 yards per game. That's more than the Bears, but they're doing it on some of the lowest plays per game in the NFL. So if you can eliminate the big play in this game, then you stand a very good shot of beating this Jaguars team. So I think it's all very clear in front of the Bears of what they need to do. And I think that they've shown in the last couple of weeks against teams of this caliber defensively, they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think like you said, man, protection. Just give Caleb enough time to make his reads, and he's learned to do that quickly. He's like you said, he's a really intelligent player. He's making his reads faster than he was in the first couple of weeks because he knows he has to. So
that's the only place I can see them losing this game. If they all of a sudden just their offensive line reverts back to
just getting
against the Houston Texans, just allowing pressure in Caleb's face the whole game. That'll lose us this game.
Yeah, that's a fear we're all going to have every week till we see quality offensive line for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row for sure.
And not having Tevin Jenkins is a big deal in that too. If Tevin Jenkins does not play, then that's a big deal in that.
But you're also correct, man. Oh, I would almost always bet on the Bears to win the turnover battle in any game they're going into until I see something change.
Yeah.
I thought the rate that this team was taking the ball away was not sustainable, but it seems like it's just going to keep going. So if they win the turnover,
we did say Trevor Lawrence only 2 interceptions in these first 5 games to his 12 touchdowns. So
yeah, he's not going to make mistakes. You're going to have to. He's not just going to. I don't know. I've seen Lawrence throw some pretty bad passes, but you're going to have to pressure him to force turnovers. I don't think it's just going to come because he makes a bad pass. He's finally got himself a really quality receiver. He's going to be more efficient as a passer than he's been in the past. His turnovers have been pretty high, I think in the mid-teens for the majority of his career. Now that he's got himself that guy, I would imagine that comes down.
Well, hopefully not in this game. Hopefully the Bears, like you said, can force a couple of turnovers. I don't see a way the Bears lose this game. Looking at everything that I've looked at, man, I just don't see a way the Bears lose this game. I don't see the Jaguars changing what they've been doing. Like that's like the one thing that could, like, if they really just decide to run,
Let's put it this way too: that this Jaguars team, I think, were 8-3 last year.
Yep.
And missed the playoffs.
Yep.
So this is not just started week 1 of the 2024 season, guys.
They
This
lost 6 straight,
downslide,
didn't they? Or did
yeah,
they
this
lose?
down, something like maybe with one win in the middle there. I don't know.
They lost 5 out of their last 6, something like
Yeah,
that.
something. Yeah, this downslides. It's been going for quite some time. So you're right, Dustin. I've watched this team. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. It's the stubbornness we've seen here in Chicago, guys. It's a head coach that's just going to keep doing things the wrong way. So
Yeah. Anybody betting on the Jags is an idiot. Just based on what they've shown you, there's no reason to believe it. There's no reason to believe in this team. It doesn't exist. Whereas the
no,
Bears over the last couple of weeks have given us that reason to believe in them because they are making the adjustments and they are improving and getting better.
yeah, they're making progress.
They went from 9 penalties 2 weeks ago to 5 last week. Like the things that they need to work on, you can see the improvements happening on the field.
Well, yeah, and I mean, think about. So we said if they won one of their last 6 or something like that, it was close to that, and then they've won one in their first 5. So
It would have been
two
10
out.
losses. No, yeah,
That's
dude.
2 out of 11 games.
It would have been
This
10
year.
losses in a row if they lost last week. That's what it would have been
Yeah.
for the Jaguars.
So yeah,
Going
two out
back
of
to last.
11 games. They've won 2 out of 11 games, guys. this you
They're
cannot lose
due.
to this. I said this on the Hail Cell Hangover. I treat this game a lot like the Panthers game. This is one of the games you must win. You must win this game because once week 11 hits and you start facing your division, when you hit, I know for a fact already, man, based on what I've seen week by week, when the Bears hit week like 9, I think it is, they have the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. That is one thing. Like we kind of all laughed and smiled about this schedule, the way it
You
opens
got
up.
to
It's like,
stack the
oh,
wins here.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're letting the Bears get better, but at the same time, the Bears kind of need to win these games. You know what I mean?
And Mass agrees with you. A huge must-win game. The only thing that it sucks that it's not a true home game for the Bears. That's just the one thing that sucks because
Yeah.
that it can get weird over there in London sometimes. That's the one thing that just if it was a home game, it'd be like 100% down. I'm gonna bet on the Bears on Sunday for sure because I do think they are gonna win. I think 1.5 is an easy number to cover for them in this game. Just Bill Murray gives me some confidence. Tevin Jenkins not being there kind of sucks if he's not playing. Hopefully he can be healthy and ready to go. We'll see. But that's the only place I see the Bears losing this game. If they cannot protect Caleb, then it's going to become a long
Well,
day
and
for
if
this
and
defense.
if this offense does go back to what we saw early in the season, man, where it's like if there's no protection and Caleb's getting beat up, their defense has still kept them in those games too. So
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I
for
mean?
sure.
They just gotta get it together, move quarter by quarter. Got to play better in the fourth than you did in the first.
Mass wants to see Kieran Amagaji more in this game. I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, they're
I
going
don't
to
know. I don't
them
know
more
if this is
practices.
the last week would have been the game that I let him play a little, and I don't know if I'd let him play him this week. These guys are a handful, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very good point in terms of the competition that is going to be across from
I would have
the
loved to
Bears.
have seen him play on like 5 to 10 plays last week against Carolina, especially after Clowney went down. Let him go out there and probably bully one of those guys and feel a little better about himself. But yeah, I don't. Trayvon Walker and Joshua Hines Allen are both players you probably don't want to start your career with.
I would, yeah, he played a few on those jumbo packages
Yeah, he
last
played. He
week.
played 2 snaps last week and 2 snaps in the Rams game as well. He's played
Yeah,
4 snaps total.
I just feel like you said, man, you have to come out and continue to develop your offense and progress against this terrible defense. You should be able to take advantage of the things that they're bad at, and
Yeah,
that should equate to a win for you. I don't see how it
yeah.
doesn't.
Dustin, no, and like so these early. The good thing about this schedule and starting, we finish. It's rough at the end of the season, but the good thing about the way it starts is these are the games you should be able to win and also not progress as an offense, but feel better. You know what I mean? Like these are the games that should make Caleb feel better going into the bye week. a game like this. Like you should put him in a position to go out there. You we both just said, keep hammering the ball away. Put him in a position to make some easy passes early in this game. The same as you did last week. Let him start to feel comfortable and let him start ripping it. that's the recipe that I would probably go with, man.
Yeah, man. In the Jaguars' last 3 games, they're allowing 316 passing yards per game. This is the
Yeah, I
game to
mean
take advantage of.
Flacco had a really bad first half, man. I plugged him in as a fantasy play. He had 35 points, but in the second half of that game, he just went off, and it was like, oh, Flacco just realized this secondary sucks. You know what I mean? And it's like he just exploded. But so I have no doubt there's no doubt in my mind, especially if Caleb can extend plays a little bit. I mean, get out of the pocket. No doubt in my mind, he's going to find open players downfield.
Just to kind of put a bow on the point I've been making about this offensive line, the Bears are allowing 3.4 sacks per game. That's 27th in the NFL. That's a place that they can be exploited. They've shown that. We're hoping for improvement, hoping to carry that into this week. But if they don't, that's what will throw a wrench in all of our big plans. I'll just say this, man, as a Bears fan, I always hate it when I think the Bears are going to win easy. Because like going into that game, like I feel uneasy about it. I do.
Because first off,
Every time I think that, they end up losing.
Because first off, we're scarred as Bears fans.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
entirely scarred. We have this mentality, this pessimistic mentality that bad things are always going to occur. But yeah, I mean, for sure, man. But you also feel bias. I mean, those guys like us, man, who are on a podcast talking to people about the Bears, you always want to have a grounded view. And when you start thinking to yourself, like, oh, the Bears are going to murder this team, it's like you start to feel like, am I just being a Bears fan or am I analyzing this game the way it's supposed to play out? But we'll get into our prediction, man, because I do think the Bears beat up on this team. You guys know where I've stood on Jacksonville all season, so this isn't a shock. I'm not jumping on a bandwagon by any terms. I think this Jaguars team is entirely. They asked today on ESPN 1000, man. They asked Cap and Hood. It was shot or no shot. The Jets are the most dysfunctional organization in football, and
no, they just fired their head coach and demoted their offensive coordinator.
Well,
the Jaguars
they said they said the Jets might be like, you could say them, and then they're like the Browns probably with that Deshaun Watson stuff. I forget who the last team they said was. I didn't really agree with it, but nobody said Jaguars, and I just thought to myself, like, Rick Hahn, the Urban Meyer hire, the Doug Peterson firing all of his coaches that were doing kind of a good job, and now they're worse without him. You know what I mean? Like, this organization is dysfunctional as hell, man. They do everything ass backwards. Nothing makes sense. So I think the Bears crush this team.
Fuck yeah.
I do, man. I think.
All right, that's a great segue to your prediction, then, ain't it?
Yeah, I think this is the writing on the wall for Peterson. If, like, maybe you said, man, maybe being in London's persuades or sways a decision one way or another, but I think the Bears win this game 28-10.
Damn. Nice. I had 28-17, so we were pretty close there. I think the Jags might get a garbage touchdown there, but I do think the writing is on the wall for this game to be another get-right game for the Bears. I think the culture of that Bears locker room, if you just listen to these guys talk, they're happy. They won 2 in a row. They don't know what this feels like. Matt Eberflus has never won 3 in a row. They're going into a bye after this game. I think that they are like, they want this game so bad, and they know what it feels like to win right now.
It's a Super Bowl. Yeah. Well, because if you, man, think about that. If you jump to 4-2, your playoff hopes, because when you were 1-2, I heard a lot of Bears fans like, oh man, I'm changing my projection in their season to 8 wins or 7 wins or 9 wins. Like,
I didn't change my projection, but I
No,
was
no.
concerned.
But you know that like I don't know, you read the stuff, man. People did for sure. Like we don't know if you listen to the radio, a lot of those guys are like we don't know if they're good enough to be in the playoffs. We still want to see improvement. But this if you're 4-2 going into your bye week, your mentality has to be like we're right where we want it to be. You know what I mean? Like obviously it hurts. That Colts game's always gonna hurt because you should have won it. The
Yep.
Colts played the Colts played worse football than you did, and you lost. And that sucks. But you're standing at 4-2 going into the bye week, you have got to think like first off, the Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots games are games you need to come out and win. Like I said, the Bears have to have this mentality. Like I said in a text to you guys, like I think the Bears before they hit this divisional section of their schedule, being 7-2 would be you would be in the playoffs if you're 7-2 going into those divisional games. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with that. I mean, your odds are obviously great. I just feel like the vibes in this locker room are really good, where it's quite the opposite. I mean, the Jags are coming off a win, but I don't know that was a get right game for them. Like I said, they could have just as easily lost that game as won it. That
Well,
wasn't.
okay, and we talked about early in the show, and I'm glad Am said it too. I wanna say it again, guys. I don't think being in London makes a team a favorite to win. I don't think even the Jaguars playing 11 games overseas, I don't think it makes them a favorite. I do, however, think what Ant Mass mentioned earlier is not only did they fly out today, they had a delay because of the hurricane. I think that can affect a football team for sure. Like
Yeah,
that
DJ
might.
Moore said that too in his press conference. Just like your body getting acclimated, it takes some time. And I think the Bears did it right. I don't think the Jaguars did. I think that's going to play a part. I think the Bears are going to be able to start out a lot faster than the Jaguars. I think the Bears can get out. Like I said, guys, the Jags are allowing 16 points in the first half. That's just regular games, not traveling to London. And this Bears offense can get off to a quick start against this defense. I really do think so. And I think they could make it I think they could seal up the game by halftime, like they did against the Panthers, where you're not really stressing in the second half because I just don't think the Jaguars are equipped to stop this passing offense. I really don't. And I think we saw Caleb make huge strides in terms of reading the field, in terms of decision making, in terms of manipulating the defense. There was just so many positive things last week with Caleb that he's going to be able to put in his back pocket and bring into this week. And he's playing against a worse passing defense than he played last week, guys. It's just the writing's on the wall for this to be a nice, easy win for the Bears, and that scares the shit out of me. That scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. What's funny, man, like we just talked about, we're kind of scarred and we kind of feel like it's kind of natural for us to feel that way. It is. It's in our nature, but I felt that way last week. And then the Bears put a hurting on a team
Yeah, and I
that
was
was
kicking myself. I was kicking
on a
myself
team. I
for
mean,
that going with my
I was
initial.
doing a fantasy show for a couple weeks. People were literally asking in the chat, should I pick up Dalton? Should I pick up Dalton? It's like that team was looking after they made the change at quarterback. It looked like with David Canellis, like, oh, maybe this guy can take one of these old savvy veterans and make something out of this. And they had two really good. They won one game, lost the other. They had two really strong, or no, they lost both, but they had two really strong offensive performances. I think they scored like 4 touchdowns in each game. But the Bears just put a halt to that. And I thought the Bears were going to be one of those teams where it's like, oh, this Andy Dalton thing's working. We talked about that. Dustin, I told you, like when a young coach gets that old quarterback that plays the system, it works out. But the Bears crushed that Panthers team. I mean, it was never a game, guys. After the Bears got on the board, really, from there it was over. So I think this is going to be a football team. The football team we've been waiting on. I think this is going to be a football team that when they play a bad football team, they don't let them hang around.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the football team that they are. I think the Jaguars are going to come into this Sunday and be the team that they've been all season, and the Bears will take advantage of it, man. And I also can we just predict it? You predicted 28-10. I predicted 28-17, and we'll predict Doug Peterson ends his career as the Jaguars head coach after this Sunday.
Yeah,
that would be fun if that comes.
If my prediction is 28-10, then yeah, I kind of have to have that stance really, because there's no surviving that, man.
With the
But
caveat,
guys, we just said, honestly, does it even matter what happens in this game? We just said he won 2 out of the last 11. That's, dude, and they were 8-3. Like, that's a playoff team. You know what I mean? You just assume you're going to the playoffs when you're 8-3.
Well, maybe that was their problem because they definitely stopped playing football last year.
Yeah.
And this is and I just want to say this one last thing. This is one of those games where it's like, you told me this before, man. Don't lose sight of what your initial reactions were or thoughts were about a team. Like all off season, I was down heavy on the Jaguars, and I looked at this game on the schedule when the schedule came out, and I was like, this is a win for the Bears. This Jaguars team has quit on its coach. It's on a low ending last season, and that's going to carry over into this season. And that was correct, and that's still happening, and the Bears are going to add to those woes for the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I think my words were before the season started. I said this Jaguars team's going to fall flat on their face coming out the gates, and
that's exactly what they've done.
They just look bad, man. They've had some close games, but they never look like they're in them. I don't know. At no point do I think they're going. No matchup this week or this season for the Jaguars going into it was that like they're going to beat that team. Not one. So
yeah, and even if it is a close game, Doug Peterson has shown he has the capability of finding ways to lose those games.
I'll be honest with you. I thought the Joe Flacco Colts were going to beat this team up. I did. I thought they were going to beat the Jaguars up, and it went to overtime, I believe, didn't it? Or was the last second?
No, it didn't go to overtime, but the Jaguars won on a field goal.
Yeah. So, it still didn't look pretty. They allowed 3 touchdowns to a quarterback, right? I think Flacco had 3 touchdowns. So, Caleb's going to light this team up. That's what I believe.
So bet the over on Caleb's passing yards. Bet the Bears. Yeah, Bears get a W in London, guys. Come home for the bye at 4-2. That's what.
I think his passing yards is 239.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going over on that because you're expecting a 300-yard passing
for sure. Yeah. No, I think for sure. I had 200 yards in the first half last week, guys. So I think this is going to be a similar game.
Yeah. And I think that just the communication, the come to Jesus moment they had with Waldron, where everybody got together and the airing of grievances, they're doing the right things here. You start to see a culture developing with this team that gets you kind of excited, man. And this is the kind of game that a team that's building that culture comes in and wins. And Caleb's going to establish himself a little bit more in this game as a leader and as a franchise quarterback. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, I fully expect, guys, Caleb's rookie struggles to continue to occur, like when he's playing teams like that Brian Flores defense, who's doing a really good job getting after the quarterback, but they also just can disguise things that confuse you. But I do believe Caleb is developed enough at this point already to when he plays defenses like these, he's gonna take advantage of them for sure.
Yeah, you could still see some of those rookie growing pains this Sunday, and it not lead to them losing the game. We could still see that, but this game is ripe for the taking, and this team is asking for it. So Bears give it to them. Doug Peterson gets fired. Bears come home on a bye at 4-2, keeping pace in the NFC North. I like it. I like it. Anything else, man? I feel like we've covered a lot of bases here. We're at 1 hour 45 minutes. Ant Mass has been here with us this whole time. Appreciate his comments. Brought us some good conversation. Make sure you hit that like, boss, please. I don't got nothing else. I think we've covered this pretty well.
No, yeah, guys, we think the Bears are going to beat up on a bad football team. once again this week for sure. So I'm looking forward to watching this game this Sunday. Are you going over there to Sean's?
Bro, I gotta work. I thought I could get it off, but I forgot I had some other obligations at work that I'm gonna have to work. So I'm just gonna be at home and then go to work.
All right, well, yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, that's it. I got nothing else, man.
For sure.
I'm excited for the bowls, guys. That happens in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, we gotta start. We're gonna start talking about putting together a weekly Bulls show here too. So if y'all are into the Bulls, look for that from us in the 4 stars. Look for us on Monday, our Hallis Hall hangover. That'll be a recap of the Bears, what we're all predicting as a win, which again makes me so fucking nervous. Everyone's predicting the Bears to win this game, dude. It's like
that circle graph on ESPN. It's got the Bears 59, 41.
Yeah.
Or 59, 31. Sorry.
Yeah, but like this is where it happens, man. Like where if you're that team, then like you said, this is a must win. This is a game you have to come out and win. You establish yourself as that team that wins these types of games. You lose, and we're all going to be losing our fucking minds. So don't do that to us.
Thanks, MS. Appreciate it. And it's just
thank you. MS.
Like I said, man, if this team's gonna have confidence, it's gonna be now. You know what I mean? Because
build on it. You
want to feel like you are a good football team when you hit weeks 11 through 7 through 18. So like, gotta get.
Bro, I got good vibes. I got good vibes about this team. Just again, watching these guys talk, watching how they react to each other on the field. They're all rooting for each other to do well, man. Like this, and I said from the beginning, the one thing that this is going to carry this team through the season. They have fucking grit. They can be in any kind of game and hang around and make it give themselves a chance to win at the end.
We got fucking fire, man. I can also
Caleb talked about that. He said like Shelton was just pointing out to him the blitz coming, and Caleb was just saying, yeah, I know it's coming. Yeah, I got this. That's what he said. I got this. So yeah, I mean, Caleb does have this, guys. We have a franchise quarterback in Chicago. He's going to continue to develop and get better. And this is just another stepping stone on that trip, in my opinion. This is where Caleb should show up and show out in this game against this defense. So I got good vibes. I feel good about this Bears team. I want to have that carry over into next week.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Headed to this bye with 3 wins in a row for the first time in Flus's career. Yeah.
Again, like it's all lining up. It's all lining up for this to happen. So we'll be here depressed and pissed off on Monday.
Well, we'll talk about where they fell short for sure.
If they do. All right, man. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Awesome, man.
Again,
thanks for hanging out, bro.
Like and subscribe. Yeah. We'll be back on Monday. We got content coming out for you all the time. 4-Star Chicago Sports. Check us out on Facebook. Thanks for staying up late with us. Have a great rest of your night. Bear down.
Bear down, guys.